leadership team, wave. And we're expecting a few more members to join us after they finish working at 5 p.m. They can't leave their office early. We also like to share with you the impact of your support. Your donations to unrestricted funds support the Lake Tahoe College Promise Program. We do have our Promise Director here, Antonio Benitez. If you're interested in more information on the Promise Program, please speak with Antonio. We also have our fall newsletter here for you. We did send those out in the fall. We also have a list of our student success grants that we are supporting for this year, including Antonio is included in that. Recently, many of our students were impacted by the storms, either lost housing or lost wages due to businesses being closed. We did have some emergency funds earmarked to support students. We also received a grant from the Foundation for California Community Colleges and supported some of the students that way. You can talk to me if you would like more information about the support that we gave those students. We also have a basic needs center on campus that can provide financial and supplies support to students. So the Basic Needs Center supported those students, and there were students who asked for help that we didn't have enough funds to help them all. So we directed them to the Basic Needs Support. Basic Needs Support, they can help them utility bills, so some of those hard expenses that students have, Basic Needs Center can help out with those students there. On your way out, please be sure to grab a Coyote beanie in the Huddle office that is behind former President Guy Leese. We want to thank you and show our support for you and that you are a member of our Coyote team. So please grab a beanie on your way out. I did want to introduce Caitlin Smith is behind the camera. She is Foundation Program Specialist, so if you want more information on our programs, you can speak with Caitlin. Also, Adele Lucas is president of the foundation, so we can also talk to you more about what the foundation does. And I think now I'm going to hand it over to President Jeff DeFranco for an update on what's happening at LTCC.
Great. Well, thank you, Nancy. Thank you to all of you. I know this group is a small but exclusive group of some of our biggest college supporters and donors who really helped out because of the college and the foundation alike. So what I want to do is just share with you a couple things that are happening at the college that I thought you'd be interested in, and then also take some questions. But I want to just reinforce one thing Nancy shared. So, I think many of us talked about snow in our roof just over a glass of wine here, and our campus, our employees, our students are feeling that very significantly. I met a student though, I did not know this student before. I met him at the President's Honor Roll, which means he got 4.0, right? 4.0 student. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know where I'm going with this? He's a forestry student. He's graduating this year. He's been accepted to Humboldt, Cal Poly. He's applied to multiple other schools. I think he's a very bright student. He's going to pretty much get accepted anywhere he wants to go. And you may have read about his family, but his roof totally caved in. He saved his young sister. It was a whole, pretty challenging, traumatizing event. And his mom was there for the President's Honor Roll ceremony. And she, I'll never forget that moment, but she grabbed my hand and she just said, "This college has saved our life, basically." And it was because of those emergency funds, right? He's still in school. Like, this is something, he lost his home. I mean, his home is it's not his own roof leak. His roof collapsed. And he's still in school and on track to graduate this spring and on track to go to one of our four-year partners here in the state because we were able to give him some support to get landed and find another place. So, so I want to share that with you. And Nancy's worked really closely with the folks in our basic needs area. And it's just really compelling. And again, this student, he's got all the promise in the world, and it would have been really sad to be this close to graduation, this close to transferring, and have it all fall apart based on something that was really, beyond his control. So that's one thing that we're all dealing with. If it's not fire, it's ice, and everything in between. It feels like. But the other thing I want to share actually was down in Sacramento today. I just got back on campus shortly before this event started, and I was at a place called El Centro High School. But this is not a typical high school. It's also part of the juvenile justice system, juvenile justice and probation. And it's one of the 10 sites. There's 10 different institutions that we work with where we offer what's called our Rising Scholars Program, which are for incarcerated individuals who are trying to attain an associate's degree through what we kind of call a high contact correspondence. So this correspondence that we send faculty, counselors in, in to meet with them, support them. There's a lot of high contact, high support. But what made this one unique is this is the first student at this facility. It's a new facility to graduate. He's an 18-year-old young man with two very beautiful young daughters who are there, and his life was derailed a couple years ago, and he decided it was his time. He accelerated his high school degree, and he completed his associate degree, and we were there today to get his associate degree. And he was the first person at that facility to ever get an associate's degree. So he was really, he was a trailblazer, and it was really powerful. And people came from everywhere. Sacramento County Office of Education was there. Sacramento County Warden of Probation was there, right? There's people coming from everywhere to see this partnership that had formed, and there was also multiple students that were in the program who were allowed to attend the graduation. And I talked to them a little bit. For them, it was just like, such a treat, right? In what was a much more normal environment. But the student, Christopher, he's graduating from us. He is scheduled to be released in the next month and a half or so, and he's been accepted to Sacramento State in fall. So it's just like, talk about a transformative story. And he probably had like 15, I've been to a couple of these, but I would say maybe of all of them, he had the most family members. So his mom passed away when he was a young man. He was, basically raised by his aunt. It had a lot of challenging circumstances. And his aunt was there, and his siblings was there, and his two young kids were there, and his wife. And they were all just so excited about his graduation, and all these little kids wanted to touch the tassel on his hat. That was actually the big exciting thing. They wanted to play with the tassel. But I just want to share that because I'm not sure if this, how much this group knows, but we have about 400 students or so a year that we're serving across these 10 institutions. And in this juvenile justice system, this is newer. We just started working with them in the last couple of years. What's unique is they're such young individuals, right? They're so at the beginning of their life, and they really have a major why in the road. And for this student, the why in the road, significantly went in the right direction by getting this associate's degree, being accepted to Sacramento State. They have a program called Project Rebound for formerly incarcerated that will give them a lot of extra support to make sure they succeed. So I just want to share that with you. We were able to bring a team down so that way they could see really the impact. If you're just pushing the paper for this, or you're the one distributing the books, you don't always get to see the, kind of the excitement and the titles that are able to see that. So that's one thing that's happening. Probably the biggest thing happening, so many things. The most disruptive thing happening on campus right now is we're still in the midst of a lot of construction, so you'll see that chain link fencing kind of around the front of the campus there. This project is scheduled to be complete in August. This will be kind of the final exterior spot, and this is made possible, I'll just say, through about $10 million in local funds through Measure F. So those of you that helped make that possible back in 2014, thank you. We were able to use that $10 million to leverage an additional $10 million for the state. Partly, you need to have money for them to match your money, and it's about modernizing really the original oldest part of campus, right? The part of campus that was first built. And one part of it is this front area here, bringing up the current. I'm sure it was current ADA standards back in '84 or whatever it was, but the standards have changed. So kind of doing that, and then also, like you see here, this is all hydronically heated in front of here, in front of the library, in front of the P building. This will be the final piece that will connect those dots. So, which is huge. On Tuesday, it's finals week this week, and on Tuesdays, Tuesday night, oh, big snowstorm. But the hydronic pathways make a huge difference. That people actually parking, getting on campus during finals week. So that work is going on. Inside, our science labs and computer labs are all being kind of modernized, brought up to 2030 air quality and safety standards, technology standards, things like that. and that is all scheduled to be opened up this August. There will be probably like a big ribbon cutting event sometime mid-August. Date's not yet set. It's always contractors, supply chains. There's a couple X factors before we're ready to send out invitations. But we'll encourage you to come see that. But it'll be very transformative for a huge, significant course in the campus. Really, some of the most original parts of campus are going to be brought up to speed to match more of what we would have here in a new building like the University Center. So that's taking place. We'll share more with you. I would assume we'll probably have a President's Circle event in that space at some point in line. But we'll also invite you to that ribbon cutting when that happens. So I want to share that as well. The other major thing that's happening right now is we are currently working on student housing. And this is like a second full-time job for a couple of us, right? We're basically developers, right? We're developers in Lake Tahoe with public money, right? There's a lot of complications to build stuff in Lake Tahoe. We built stuff in part of Lake Tahoe. A lot of complications to build stuff with public money, especially a project of this size. So we received about $40 million from the state of California. When this project and all the tertiary things are done around it, it'll probably be closer to 44 or so of what it's going to take to get everything done. Some local funds. We're working on a couple large foundation donations, partnerships, and other state funds that make it all happen. But what that's going to do is build a brand new student housing on campus. We had a major milestone, just to kind of give you the timeline, and if you've dealt with development TRPA, you know this is expeditious, is we got approval of funding on June 30th of last year, yet we got into DSA by December of this year, and we got our initial, Division of State Architects, that's who we have to work through at the state level. We got our initial site work package approval from them already. Tahoe Regional Planning Agency approved our project last Wednesday, so was that a week ago? Is that right? Was it last week? A week ago, they approved our project, so we got the green light from TRPA, and that's going to allow us to break ground and start doing tree removal and site work come late May, early June, and then we're expecting our final building approval from Division of State Architects by June 1st to allow us to actually work on the building part of it once the site work's done as early as August. So I share that with you to say, if you've been a part of, Guy, you've been part of this project, Roberta, you've been part of this project, Gary, you've been part of these projects. If you have, you know that it takes a lot of moving the mountains to get TRPA to move at that pace. Division of State Architects, we worked with the state architect and got a special agreement due to Tahoe and our need to build it in the summer. So that's happening. So we will be breaking ground. We will probably have, there will be like an initial breaking ground that will happen, and then there will be, when the building part starts in mid-August, there will be a groundbreaking ceremony. It'll probably be around Tahoe Summit time. We're actually working with the governor's office and Feinstein's office. There's a lot of people that have invested in this that are, they want to, potentially be there or have a hand in it. So that's a little bit of what we went through. All that to say, it's been a hustle, right? Because if we miss this summer, then it's a whole nother year it doesn't open up for students. But also, you're seeing inflation in the grocery store. Well, cost escalation on construction this last year is 13.5%, right? So we were told basically if we miss this summer, the project's going to cost an extra $1.5 million. So it's not sitting around anymore, right? So we had to get the shovels in the ground this summer. So that's what we've been through. But let me tell you a little bit about what it's going to do, right? So that's what we've been through. I'll start here. I'll start with this one. I'll move it up so it's a little kind of higher. So this is what you're going to see. It's a 2-story student housing building. It'll serve 100 students. 3 of those will be resident advisors, so basically the students who are going to school also are serving as resident advisor, and then one full-time resident director. So there's actually going to be a full-time salaried college employee that will live and work in this building, right? There's an apartment in that building. And so what you'll see, again, it's a 2-story building, right? Trying to minimize coverage, minimize space. It's designed to very much, match the existing look and feel of the campus. So I think one thing about this campus, if you've been to other campuses, so I worked on 2 different campuses before this. One, Chico State. So has anyone been to Chico State campus before? Right, so Chico State, there you go. So if you know about Chico State, right, the brick, it has a very consistent look and feel. Right, very consistent look and feel. The other place I worked was University of Oregon. If you've been to anyone been on the University of Oregon campus? You could tell what building was built in the 70s, what building was built in 2020. You could tell what building Nike built. Every building looks different, right? So this campus, and it really started with Dr. Duke and Guy Lees and Roberta and others, really has kind of more went with the Chino State model, which is it all looks like it. You can't tell what was built first. I mean, you can kind of tell this is new construction, but it has a very consistent looking building. And so this building will very much look like our other buildings in terms of the paint colors, the siding materials, like the rock work that you see outside that window by Nancy and Carrie. Again, two-story building, kind of what you see there. A couple other details about it. So let me orient you to it. So this is the current student center, which is also where our cafeteria facilities are. This is the library. And then right over here, you can't quite see, it's the P building. And then a little bit further, this area is grass fields. And so there's a lot of talk that went into this, but pretty much when we met with residential living experts, visit campuses, typically you want your housing close to the things students use: library, gym, and food service, right? And so it's located in all those areas. It's actually going to be a very nice facility. It's kind of right on the edge of this sensitive, this direction is sensitive environmental zone. So it's going to have these beautiful views over Trout Creek. I mean, it's going to be, as far as a student at $500 a month, right? At $500 a month for a bed, right, which is a below market rate. It's basically subsidized by the state giving us $40 million, so we're not trying to recoup our capital. We just have to charge them for operational costs. But it's going to be the best Lake Tahoe view, $500 to buy, and then some, right? So a couple things are exciting about this. One, it's going to be a great living environment for students. It's going to have great proximity to campus facilities. There's a lot of glazing in the building, right? You can kind of see all the glass right on the glass here in front. So a lot of daylight. It's going to be a very, very nice place to live. Again, what you kind of see here is, right now, that's sort of like our heated sidewalks end. That's current. This will now connect into this facility. These are required fire lanes. So this, if you're wondering what all that asphalt is, there's a lot of requirements around fire lanes and fire access. But the other thing that's exciting is, right now our primary entrance is really the library, and it's been like that because of construction and during the COVID era, that's kind of the only allowable entrance. The main entrance over here is, once this is done, will be a primary entrance again. But really, the student center entrance is going to start being the main entrance for 100 students, right? You're going to be able to walk in your building, right out the door, on a deep walkway, up a ramp, or up some stairs, into the student center, right? And I don't know the exact distance. It's less than a football field, right? It's very close. So if you think about like a snowy day, a lot of times students don't make it to class or don't make it to a test because of weather. This is definitely going to simplify that for them. And it's going to really connect to the space. It was always challenging to get students to go down to the center campus. I think partly, they always just want to be in the center. They want to be where the action is. Well, there's going to be a lot more action here now because of this. So that gives you a little bit of the connectivity. But one or two other things, students, this will be like cordoned off for like fire access, but it'll be able to be opened up on like key moving dates so cars can pull in and line up on the side of the road and drop stuff off. There's some loading parking there. But you'll notice we're not adding additional parking for this. There's a couple reasons why. Frankly, it adds millions of dollars to the project. The building a parking lot is one of the most ridiculously expensive things you could build in Lake Tahoe. But secondarily, we've done mobile parking analysis, and because more of our students are online, we now have a telecommute program where certain employees of their job allows for could work 20% or 1 day a week telecommute. And so that creates less car traffic. We now have a mobility hub, right? We used to have buses. This is when I started, buses were coming once every 2 hours. Now they're coming 3 buses per hour. We now have a green bike trail, all those different things. We're having a lot less vehicle traffic on campus. So we're actually going to be able to utilize a little of this parking over here. It's going to be zoned and permitted for overnight parking without having to add additional parking. They'll be able to drop stuff off and come in. With that said, I can tell you at our current off-site housing complex, we have 31 beds, 6 parking spots. Many of our students just don't have vehicles, right? They take the bus, they ride their bike, they walk, right? They just don't have vehicles. They don't have the means for vehicles, or they don't have vehicles, or they can't, for various reasons, they don't have vehicles. So that gives you a little bit of a setup. This is just another look and feel. Gives you a little different angle. There's these staircases. There'll be covered bike parking in there. So that's a little bit of that. I'll share two other, these are kind of hard to see from far away. I encourage you to come give a look after. But basically, what we have is a first floor so all these are, most of these, so actually there's 100 beds, 90 of them, is it 90 that are in double occupancy? I think so. 90, 91, somewhere in there, 92, somewhere in there. That are double occupancy, so 90% are double occupancy, meaning 2 beds, 1 room, and then there's 10 that are single occupancy. The reason we did that is because we do have some students that we serve that are returning veterans, that are previously homeless, that have different needs that, having a single space, smaller space, but a single space might be a better setup. But basically, in each one of these, this is a room on each side. There will be a bed in a bed, a desk in a desk, and armoire, really like a closet, right? Like kind of a closet element. So they'll each have that, and then in each one they have a sink and a small kitchenette, right? So they have the ability to heat something up in the microwave, they got a fridge, because we're not planning on going into the business of three times a day, 7 days a week food service, right? So we're giving them the capability to take care of some of that. We will have to add more food service on campus, but this will save us from potentially save us from, some institutions that are really needing the regular food service because they're offering Monday morning breakfast that no one comes to, right? So they'll have that, and then they share a restroom area. So that may be different than like the dorms that maybe you or I went to, where you kind of walk in the hall, and there's like a single large-scale restroom. Basically, each quad, so each 4 students has a restroom with a shower, toilets, that they share. So you see this on the first floor. On this side, you have a lot of that. You have the director's office. You have a study area, walkway, storage, mechanical rooms, so on and so forth. And then the second floor is basically all bedrooms, and then there's a community kitchen, which is a larger kitchen, which actually allow more preparing of meals. The meals you're making in your bedroom are like you're toasting a bagel, you're heating up a hot pocket, you're making cereal. You got enough to be able to do that. But if you actually want to cook a legitimate meal, you got to use the community kitchen. And so that gives you kind of a sense of things. Again, I encourage you to come give this a bigger look. I have a couple other updates, but I feel like before I go any further, I see a couple maybe looks of question marks, so I want to try and answer some of this.
Will the students be able to live there year-round?
Yes, it's a great question. So, couple things about this. So again, you're going to be $40 million for the state, and this is for the state to accomplish a couple things. They wanted to support student housing, but they also wanted to address the need of low-income and affordable housing, and they wanted to make sure students had year-round housing. So this is deed restricted, I believe, for 50 years. It must be provided to low-income students. They must be available to use it year-round, so there's no kicking them out in July or after winter break, right? It's year-round. Because this was funded through the state of California, it's for California residents. Part of that is the state didn't want to give, and this money also went to places like UC Berkeley and San Diego State, right? It was not just community colleges. They didn't want to give money for that and then have to move in a bunch of international students, for instance, right? That wasn't the intent. This is about serving low-income students. Now, with that said, I say low-income, but it's really low to middle income. It means that they qualify for the federal Pell Grant or the state of California Promise Grant, or formerly known as the Board of Governors Fee Waiver, which is really more in low-income to affordable housing. Is probably a better name for it in terms of how you describe it. The one thing I will say is a reminder, we do have a 31-bed unit off-site, off Ski Road Boulevard on Aspen Avenue, that we will maintain because we have students that come from Reno, Vegas, out of state, or other, beyond Nevada, international, that will also still need a place to live. And that's predominantly who's in that already. A lot of our international students really help fill that up. So we'll maintain that, but this, due to our agreement in the state of California, is focused on year-round, low-income, full-time students.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Just kind of a follow-up question. Are the students expected to sign a 9-month or a 12-month contract for the group?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gary.
What's our income modeling?
Yes. So our pro forma is based on 90% at 10 months, right? So we're assuming 10 months, 90% fill. Now, with that said, student athletes tend to come earlier. Folks that are maybe housing insecure don't have somewhere else to go. This will be their year-round housing. But I mean, we kind of have a performance creative parameters with that. With that said, between now and July 1, when we open this up, we're going to have to make some agreements on that. Now, that's one area with a little flexibility from the state. Some folks will do it term to term. Some institutions are doing it term to term. Some are doing it academic year. Some are doing it 12-month. Those are kind of the three models that are most common that we've seen. Any other questions? Those are good questions. Because I forgot to hit that. Keep on. Yeah.
So have you looked at your current population and do you think you'll be able to fill
Yeah,
100 beds with low, qualified students?
So that of our California students, that makes up about 85% of them qualify for that, right? So the vast majority of our students are going to qualify for this because they qualify for those various funds. So we did 2 different studies, 2 different advanced studies with a firm called Browser and Navy, since they've done their studies with Central Oregon Community College, UC Berkeley, University of San Diego, right? So they're leaders up and down the West Coast. And they do this demand study and they come out of it and they say, you need 440 beds. But then, based on your cost threshold, we're going to reduce you down to this. Based on your low income, we're going to reduce you down to that. Okay, now you need 212 beds. Well, now to ensure that you have sufficient demand, we recommend, start with 100, right? So it's the demand models show that we could use more than 100 beds, right? But this was designed to be, again, that 90% minimum. So, with that said, like what I told the board that night, I said, so it's going to open on July 1, 2025. Let's talk on January 1, 2027, right? Let's talk 18 months. Because getting off the ground, right, people are going to need to know that we have this, know how to qualify, right? People will start seeing it there potentially sophomore, juniors in high school that will know and it will change their trajectory. I know personally I have 2 students that I know they're high school students right now. That I knew their parents, and they're both coming to LTCC in fall, and a big pull is they're both going to housing, right? And they're already setting up meetings, both of them. One's already met with Antonio, another one's going to be with Antonio, I promise. So, but part of it is having housing starts changing trajectory of planning. So I hope it's full on day 1. I suspect it'll take a little time for there really to be good understanding on that. Here and there. They have to be, yeah. So they have to be what's considered financial aid full-time. So what we always tell students is, if you want to graduate in 2 years, you need to take and complete 15 units a term. You get 45 units a year, 90 units in 2 years. Now with that said, financial aid only requires them to take 12 units to be full-time. And so for the sake of this, they would have to be financial aid full-time, which is they need to attempt, not necessarily complete 12 units, right? The state has, the state's trying to it's like, how would I use it? It's like, one arrow trying to, solve a lot of things. They're trying to get at low-income housing, student housing, and their completion agenda. So some of my peer colleges that I talked to, and a lot of us are still working this out, right? We're just trying to get shovels in the ground, and then we got 2 years to figure this out. We're going to say, hey, we're going to put a 3-year cap on whether you live in this. Now, some community colleges are getting approved for bachelor's degrees. It's something we're talking about. If you went into the bachelor's program, well, then maybe you'd be extended. But there'll be something like that. The one area we do have a little flexibility around how we count full-time from the state. We don't have flexibility on California resident. I got asked a lot about that at TRPA from the Nevada side of the board. We don't have flexibility on the low to middle income thresholds, but we do have a little flexibility on how we monitor that full-time and how much time we give students to live in housing. Basically, we want housing to be a way for students to go to school and complete, but we don't want people just to come be a student just to get housing and into perpetuity, right? That's not the intent. Bob, you have a question?
Well, I heard about, the program that Antonio was running, University of Charter. What's going to happen if you go 4 people, and they all seem to have to be the same sex to use the common bathroom? So there'll be women's units and men's units?
Yeah, basically the quads will be set up as men's and women's. So depending on demand, and that's how it is. So right now at our current housing, there's basically 5 units. There's 3 bedrooms in each, 6 students, right, double occupancy. And then there's one that has 1 additional unit for the RA. But take that out. Let's just talk about the 30. And so sometimes, like most recently, it was 3 of those units were female units and 2 of those units were male units, and that was just we saw the demand.
So these rooms would be for people
Yeah.
sharing that should all be female.
Yes. That's how it's designed, right? That's the intent of the design. Over the next 50 years, things have changed a lot. It used to be that like male and female were in totally separate dorms, and then they were in separate wings, and now they're neighbors. So who knows what the future will bring? I don't want to make any commitments, but the way it is designed with that, and the way we enter that current housing is based on demand, right? We tend to have more female students on our campus than male students. Not significantly more, but that's
Well, I was just talking about industrial engineering and operations research, which I majored in. It was all men. Now I say 60% women.
yeah. That worked.
So I have a question about the units that would be one person. Is that, how do they look different? You said these are units for one person.
Yeah, let me see if I can see one. Alright, so there's a couple also you'll notice too, like we have an EDA double, there's an EDA single, there's also American with Disability Act rules on how that works out, but in these 2 singles, they're smaller than doubles. Yeah, the building shortens, right, so they don't have as much depth, so they don't get as much square footage. It's a smaller space, the square footage. Those 2 share one restroom. There is a higher fee for that, I think it's $750, is that what that is in the pro
So
forma?
it would just be one bed in that unit.
1 bed in the unit. It's a smaller unit, a little bit smaller unit, just 1 bed in the unit. So smaller unit, less furniture, 1 person. Any other questions on housing? So housing is that's there's a lot of things that are happening, but this is definitely like one of the really big things that's taking our time. Obviously, this construction that's happening is taking a long time. We're really excited for August 1st to come, and we have people. If you've been on campus, who's been on campus in like the last year? If you walked around and been down to the student center, right? We got people in cubicles, cubbies, old closets, right? People are everywhere right now. So campus is ready to be released. Back we're living like sardines right now. So folks are ready to get back to that. Students are ready to get back to probably easier pathways to come and go than we have right now. So that's very significant. We also have an equipment storage facility building that's being built behind PE. We got the foundation poured right before November 8th or so, whenever the TRPA shut us down. And it did have the ability, because we were out of the ground, they could have built through winter, but obviously this winter wasn't quite. If it had been like a light winter, those really dry January, February seasons that we had, then we could just continue construction. So that project's in hibernation, that'll be completed this summer, and that's going to allow us to put all our plow trucks and loaders and various vehicles and the vans we got all out of the weather, out of the sun, out of the snow. So I'll share one other thing that's happening. The other big thing is we're definitely in a very unique era in terms of resource development. This $40 million was huge. A couple years before that, we got the $10 million from the state for this modernization. We do have a request into the state of California that our new assembly member, our new state senator, is helping push for $11 million to bring some public safety training space at campus. That would basically be a large tarmac for our firefighters to train, has water retention systems so they can do hose drills and whatnot and recapture that. We got a training tower funded through Senator Padilla and Senator Feinstein's that we have money for the training tower, but we need somewhere to sit. Use this giant tarmac. And so anyway, so there's a lot going on in that regard in advocacy. We've been really lucky in recent years. Last year it was about $9 million in federal grants last year. And then we found out 2 weeks ago we just got another $3 million federal grant to expand our Hispanic Serving Institution designation. So in that regard, it's super unique. We hired 45 people last year. Is that number right? 45? Do you guys ever hire? We think it might be the highest in 1 year. At least in my era, it is. Like in the last decade. I don't know. You've been here a long time. You've been here a long time. But so our HR office is busy. But a lot of that's it's federal money. So it's only these are 5-year grants. People know it's not forever. We're trying to scale up while we can. So we've put a lot of investment in development and grant writing, and that's paid off in terms of the resource and the and then now it needs to start paying off in terms of the impact on students, graduating, their success, those sort of things. So that's taking place. I think the one other thing that I would say that we're really excited about is we launched a forestry program this past fall. That cohort was completely full, 34 students. Those students are succeeding. They're working towards certificates or degrees that will allow them either to work on wildfires, to work in environmental conservation and stewardship, to work in forest management. We have a second cohort going on that's going to be a hybrid cohort where they're going to be able to do some of their lecture stuff online, so they can be out of the basin and then just come to the basin for their labs. So we're excited about that. We're talking about maybe trying to establish an area on campus that could be a forestry lab where these students could actually do some of the tree and forest management and actually go on campus. So again, I think post-Calor, we were always big in public safety and big in fire, but now we've added forestry to that. We are going to announce on Monday a new position that we're hiring. I can't tell you the person is yet because there's still things being worked out, but it's a director of forestry, fire, and public safety. And this was made possible partly through a very generous donor. So talk about the power of philanthropy. A very generous donor that was introduced to us from the Tahoe Fund gave us a $200,000 seed donation to help make this position possible. So part of it is that's where we're really growing. It's where the state wants us to do more. And frankly, I personally believe it's great. As many students that we can send to UC, CSU, UNR are awesome, right? As many people we can help get in the workplace, awesome. But I think that there's a lot for this basin if we do good things in forestry, fire, emergency medical services that are really going to be helping the basin, the region, the Sierras, for generations to come. So we're really doubled down on that. And the great thing is that we've had a lot of support, whether it's from Senator Padilla, Senator's Finance Office helping us with the training tower, the Tahoe Fund, many of you that helped make that happen. So I think that's the high points. There's a lot going on, but I don't want to overdo my time here and bore you. I'll just open it up if there's any questions about anything that I've shared, or if there's anything else you want to ask, or Kathy, if you have a really good curveball to throw at me. But I just want to be open to this group if you have any questions or anything else you want to know more about, or something you heard that you want to know about, something that you saw. I'll give a second until I figure out if there's anything. Yeah, I covered a lot. A lot's happening. Lots happening on campus right now. I used the analogy in September when I spoke to the staff that we're in our chrysalis right now, and this campus will be a butterfly next fall. Come back in fall. There's a lot of construction now. And then fast forward to 2025 with housing. It is, as Roberta reminds me, yes, it's going to create a lot of headaches for us, but the amount of vibrancy of life of having 100 full-time students living on this campus for student life activities, and clubs, and face-to-face classes, and soccer fields, and the PE facility, and all that, the library, it's going to dramatically change.
You talked about increasing the food services. That's all I've been thinking about is 100 hungry college students.
Yeah, so
Open a pizza delivery business.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, our current working model, and we have to vet this more. But our current working model is to add what's called a 2x5 program. So basically, lunch and dinner Monday through Friday. And the reason for that is we'll have those 100 students, but in lunchtime you have a lot of employees on campus that can help supplement that, and dinner time you have a lot of evening class students that can help supplement that. But that probably we wouldn't do any breakfast program, and leave the mornings for the culinary to be a teaching kitchen, right? Because we also have culinary classes, right? There's a little bit of that. We actually just hired a new faculty member in hospitality and culinary. He starts this week, right? He starts teaching classes in spring quarter, which is the week after. But we're going to have that coordination now. So the students, that's partly why we gave them, the idea is on the weekend you have your kitchenette, you have a community kitchen, you have pork and more, you have sprouts, you have all those things, right? But then we'll do some food service, because food services for colleges in my experience other than downstate, they're kind of lost leaders. You lose money on them, but you have to provide them because students need to eat. So that's kind of a balancing act. We do have a new partner store facility this July, and they have some very innovative ideas about convenience items and partnering with local businesses. Rusty and her team helped us get a food truck permit, so now we are one of the, if you've been following that food truck controversy in South Lake Tahoe, we're one of the few places in the city where food trucks are allowed to come. So we do have a food truck that comes here a couple days a week. So, it's going to be a combination of all those things, but it won't be like, maybe what some of us remember when you were in the dorms where it's like 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'm going to the same dining hall. It'll be a combination of things that will make up food trucks.
How much money is left on the bond?
How much money is left on the bond? That's a great question. So the bond is basically coming to an end. The bond, there's money that is left that has not yet been paid out on this project, right? We'll call it committed or encumbered, right? Same with the equipment storage facility. So the bond's kind of final projects are this remodel for efficiency, which was 10 million local, 10 million state. That will be fully utilized. There's equipment storage facility and everything surrounding it, which was, like for us, it was about 3 million ballpark. That will be completed this August. There was $1.5 million or so in the bond for residential living pre-site development. That has helped to this point with some of the planning and design. It wasn't to build a building, but it was allow us to prep the site. The remainder of that will be utilized this summer to do site prep. And then basically after that, we have one final issuance of a total of $7 million, and $5.7 million of that was set aside for the Public Safety Training Center. So if you go back to the bond language, the Public Safety Training Center is the final big thing that's not hit. But the problem is the Public Safety Training Center doesn't cost $5.7 million. It costs more like $27.5 million. So that's why we're doing the work with the feds and the state, because it's going to need a lot of money from other places to become reality.
How much will we be able to leverage from the bond?
So the bond leverage is a great question. I think you need a more precise report. I'll give you like my off the top number. So the 10 million from the bond brought us in another 10 million, right? 2 million from the soccer facility brought in another $1.5 million worth of development out there, right? 1.5 million for residential living brought in 40 million, right? So that's the biggest one when you think about, and that's partly why we got funded, because we, unlike many of our colleges up in the state, had done the pre-work, so we were able to go in and have competitive applications. So that's the biggest one there. And then it depends how you count the university center. If you remember the university center, we had $1 million in the bond to be able to do some university center classrooms. That created the idea that ended up being shared with the donor and brought 5.8 million, 5.7 to this. So I think, ballpark, it's easy to say that if the bond raised 55 million, that we've already brought in 60 million. And we're still pounding Sacramento and DC to try and get another 10 to 15.
We've done quite well.
Was that?
We have done quite well.
We've done quite well. Yeah, we were behind a couple years ago, you remember, right? We finally got that 10 million match, and now this match, and we're catching up. The goal was always to make it 1-to-1, right? For every dollar from the bond, you get $1 from somewhere beyond, and we're going to achieve that now. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'll be up here. I'm happy to chat with you. What's that? Oh, we're ready to go. We're really putting me on the spot. So, that's your library question. So, we made a move during COVID to move the library only to active students. And, part of that was twofold. It was during the pandemic when we were trying to limit visitation, but frankly, the library, we were dealing with a lot of security issues, a lot of challenging issues of folks just really posting up in the library, causing a lot of problems for the library staff. And the library has shifted a lot more to not just library service, but also it's our tutoring center, right? So there's a lot of tutoring that goes on. Math tutoring is the most utilized tutoring that's over there. And so that kind of happened during COVID, and then we, kind of at the request of the library team, we've maintained that as a LTCC student library, for that purpose. I think partly before there was a lot of kind of just folks coming in, get on the computer for the day and just doing their work there. It's like, we're not Cover Tahoe, right? We're not the public library, right? This is really focused on serving But I know that's not popular with everyone, but that can be changed. We can talk, but I would say that's the current setup. And the library staff have a lot of good reasons I'd love to tell you about why that's a good approach. I'm sure you've heard of that. Okay, anything else? Yeah.
Public library is struggling, so I think that having some competition for the public library may not be good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just, it's just a challenge. I think part of it's also resources. Now, with that said, the library, fitness education center, the campus, everything's going to have to change, right? I mean, we're pretty closed right now on Sundays. Like, the library's open at 2 o'clock library?
Yeah, 3 to 7.
Oh, 3 to 7, thank you. 3 to 7. Right, so right now, we have limited hours on the weekends. When you start having 100 students living on campus, we've already discussed this, we're going to have to change our hours, right? Students that live here, we're going to expect more access to services, more hours a day, more times a week. So this will not be without complications. And we're crystal clear on that, and I'm sure there's plenty of complications we haven't even considered. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to wrap it if not. Am I handing off to Antonio, or are you handing off to Antonio?
No,
No.
he's just available.
Okay.
Everybody wants to-
All right, I'm going to give Antonio one pitch. So Antonio, as many of you know, star student in LTCC, went on to UC Berkeley, got his master's degree from UC Berkeley. Works for us now as our Lake Tahoe College Promise Director. As a reminder, Lake Tahoe College Promise, earn your degree tuition free, up to 3 years tuition free, made possible through the LTCC Foundation to serve our Nevada students from state line to incline, so anyone in the basin could benefit from that. But in addition to that, they get Antonio and his team support. They get a $100 credit at the bookstore marketplace each term. They get a lot of counseling. They take a first year experience class. And so that's one of the big programs that the foundation has made possible. So thank you. So Antonio's here. If you have questions about the program, please chat with him. And I will just also say that we actually brought on, through grant receipt, UC Davis Wheelhouse, which is kind of the statewide experts in community college leadership, right? To do an independent external evaluation program. We've seen the preliminary results of that. They're very promising. The final report is going to be going to the foundation board and the board of trustees later this year. And it shows that the work's good. There's more work to do, but the work's good. So thank you for your support of that program. If you've got questions, ask Antonio. And then finally, I'll just wrap it. Encourage you to come get these a look. Feel free to put your hands on them, move around. If you got questions, I'm here and happy to chat. So thank you, everyone.
Good job.